But right now, it's college football. We're about 5 days away to the start of the season. 6 days, games on Saturday. Of course, 12 days to the Longhorn opener with the Rice Owls. But that means we're getting closer and closer to number one in our Horn Top 20 countdown. All right, that is the fight song of the Utah Utes, the champions of the Pac-12 1 year ago, or last season, not even a year ago. Mm-hmm. They won the Pac-12, beat USC twice. Then how about USC then, Rod? Because we're going to preview them on our way to number one. They went to the Cotton Bowl, got beat by Tulane.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it became pretty clear how to beat USC. Run the ball.
Bully ball, man. Make them tackle.
Make them tackle.
Make USC tackle you. They don't like to tackle.
Well, and if you found out last year with USC, if you didn't turn the ball over, because their defense wasn't very good, but it's very opportunistic. They forced a ton of turnovers, USC did. Mm-hmm. If you could protect the ball and then bully them with your run game, you could beat USC. You wonder if people are assuming USC's kind of fixed that this year. We'll see, to go with Caleb Williams in the offense. But we have Utah behind them, as we had Washington at number 11 on Friday. And with that in mind, can we go to the Vaqueros hotline and preview both of those teams, number 11 and number 10, with our friend Pete Fiutak of College Football News, that great website and wealth of knowledge when it comes to college football. Pete, how are you?
Let me just fast forward here for you. USC fixed the glitch. They loaded up on the transfer portal for that defensive front. So it's going that is a team that is going to be far, far better on both sides of the ball this year.
You think so? Yeah. So USC up in our top 5 or 6 is where you have them as well.
Yeah, they're going to make the college football playoff. I mean, they are there. I mean, because as long as 13 stays healthy, and as long as he doesn't have Caleb doesn't have those hamstring problems he had in the Pac-12 championship. This is Lincoln Riley. He's doing for USC what he did at Oklahoma, only with a lot better players. And so this offense is going to still be amazing. And again, I think it's something crazy like the entire 2 deep of the front 6 is coming from the transfer portal with a solid rotation. So it's not going to be Georgia, but it's certainly going to be a much better defense, and that's really all they kind of need.
Hey, Pete, I heard Kyle Whittingham recently say and he was talking about football in general, that defense, doesn't win championships as much anymore. Now it's about focusing on offense. Has Utah, even though they're still a hard-nosed blue-collar football team, have they shifted now to an offensive mindset to reflect kind of what Kyle Whittingham's saying?
Not really. They did make a flip 7 or 8 years ago where they started to get away from just the ground and pound and started to pass it around a little bit more. But the principles are still there, like you mentioned, is that they essentially took what Wisconsin did and applied it to the Pac-12, where just big, giant men on the lines, dominate defensively up front, own the time of possession, be more physical than everyone else, don't turn the ball over, penalties. It sounds simple, but it's what they've been able to do and keep that thing going. And that's why, if anything, they've been extremely underappreciated, underrated for what they've been able to do over the last several years. And that's going to continue. The big, giant, huge problem, though, is that they don't have a quarterback. Cam Rising's hurt. He injured his knee late in the Rose Bowl. He's probably back at some point. They're not counting on him for the Florida game. And then their backup just got hurt. I think it was a bad hamstring injury. I could be wrong on that. It was something bad enough where they're looking. They have options. The guy who filled in for Rising is ready to step up and play, but they got to deal with Florida. They got to deal with trip to Baylor. So it's going to be a tough start to the season, but they're assuming that Rising's back maybe by week 3 or 4. At least that's the hope. And that's going to really dictate the Pac-12 season. So you might have 2 Utahs this season where they might not be great early on just because of that quarterback situation. And Florida's still pretty good. But from the middle of the year, you look at their schedule, and they are built to again, at least play for the Pac-12 championship.
Great insight from Pete Fiutak of College Football News. If you go to that great website, by the way, collegefootballnews.com, where he is the publisher, you will see all the previews of all of these teams. And you just said it. I mean, without Cam Rising, and that schedule comes at him hard early, They played at the Swamp and against Florida last year, and then now they get the return engagement at Utah. And then they play in Waco on September the 9th against the Baylor Bears. So we'll learn a lot about those two teams early. Then they have UCLA 2 weeks later. So 3 of their first 4 games. I mean, they're going to need a quarterback, someone, if they're going to not start 1-3.
Yeah, they did. Here's the thing, though. They win at home. If anybody who invests has figured this one out, where they're strangely, weirdly bad on the road. Their game doesn't travel. Here's where the difference between the old Wisconsin type it is. Wisconsin could come in just you knew it was coming. They don't beat top teams when they get away from Salt Lake City for the most part. It's especially against the spread. At home, though, that is a whole different ball game. I mean, because you do have the elevation, you do have the different atmosphere. So I do think they get by Florida. Baylor is not a top 15-ish team, so that should be a 50-50 game. So they should be able to get through this. UCLA going through a bunch of changes. So, again, those home games are going to be great, are going to be fine for Utah. It's just when they go on the road that's going to be the problem. But, again, as this shakes out, they should be good enough to be right in the mix for the Pac-12 title again, but maybe not the college football playoff. So that's kind of why they don't get a whole lot of attention, because they tap out the college football playoff race early. They did last year, but they're still going to be very, very good.
As usual, as we say, Kyle Whittingham took over from Urban Meyer in 2005, and he's still there, Rod.
Still getting up, still winning.
Hey, can we pick your brain on our team number 11? That was Washington. We saw them in the Alamo Bowl last year, beat Texas, and Michael Penix is back and loaded at receiver. Their offense should be great. Defense, they think, is going to be improved, especially in the pass game. I mean, that's a team, if USC's not playing for the college playoff, they feel like they could, coming off a 11-12 win season a year ago, Washington Huskies.
Can they keep Penix healthy? I mean, that offense that came from Florida State is still – Fresno State is still amazing. But it depends on Penix Jr. being able to stay in one piece. He couldn't do that in Indiana. He had horrible, horrible luck. I mean, I think he had like 3 knee injuries, or at least it was 2 major knee injuries and a shoulder problem. I mean, he just never could stay in one piece. And he finally did it that last year, and that's partially because of the design of the offense that gets the ball out of his hands in a hurry and just lets him wing it around and doesn't open him up to a whole lot of shots. But if you got to assume that they are still going to be bombing away. They're going to try to be a little more physical defensively, because Washington last year was underwhelming and too many shootouts. So the hope would be that you don't have to throw for 360 yards a game, but that's probably what they're going to do. But the defense is going to be a little bit better. They're very good. But the problem overall, and this is going to go for any of these Pac-12 teams, is, where's your free space other than Stanford this year? If you're assuming Colorado's better, Arizona State should rise up again pretty quickly. Arizona is going to be really dangerous. So while Washington's good, when talking college football playoff, you got to go 11-1 and then win the Pac-12 title. Everyone except maybe there's USC and there's kind of everyone else. Where's the free space game in their conference schedule? I mean, Oregon State's nasty, Washington State's nasty, so they're going to be very, very good. They're going to be very in the mix. I just think there's just a slight tier below USC, Oregon, and Utah when it comes to winning the Pac-12 title.
Hey, Pete, what do you think about the Pac-12 in terms of quarterback talent? Are they the most talented quarterback conference right now in terms of Caleb Williams? Just talked about Michael Penix Jr. I'm looking at all the other Power 5 conferences or even the other conferences, and I don't think they actually can compete with the Pac-12's quarterbacks.
By 100 miles. Yeah. I mean, give me who's the signature star? Like, obviously, if you're in the southeast part of the country, give me the SEC signature star this year. Like, who's the guy? It's the SEC freaking C. You don't have Bryce Young. Yeah. You don't have, that obviously they're good. Obviously they've got quarterback talent. Who's the signature star in the Big Ten this year? The J.J. McCarthy, really? I mean, because you don't have that quarterback talent there, at least the known quarterback wise that you have in other spots. Just keep going with the Pac-12. Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Shedeur Sanders is going to be an NFL starter.
Oh yeah,
my guy DJ Uyunglele. I think the change of scenery is going to do him wonders. And from all reports, he is letting it rip at Oregon State. And if he puts it all together, that's number one overall draft. That's like the guy who goes from being kind of forgotten about to being Joe Burrow, or one of those types who just all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute here, we got a 6'4", 245-pound guy who can move with every tool in the box. He's got it all, and just keep on going. Every single team in the Pac-12 has a quarterback, and there's like 6 or 7 who are good enough to end up in the mix to be all-conference quarterback.
Yeah.
Assuming that Caleb Williams is the one-on-ones here, but you're right. It is going to. It's the tough part about this is the Pac-12 dissolves and goes away. Every team and every game is going to be fun, and unfortunately, if you don't have the Pac-12 network, which if you're a streaming person of YouTube TV or something like that, you don't have this. So we get the first weekend where I believe you can watch, I think I got this right, but I think you can watch UMass and New Mexico State on ESPN, and good luck finding USC and Caleb Williams playing the opening game of the year against San Jose State.
Unbelievable.
Nice.
Pete Fiutak, great stuff right there. As usual, you like USC to play in the college football playoff, so that's got that out of the way early out of the Pac-12. And then, Utah, Washington, Oregon State should be a dogfight. Even, gosh, you go all the way down to Arizona quarterback Jaden DeLaura is a really good player at the QB position. It's kind of the QB conference of the year, without a doubt. And people forget that DJ Uiagalelei transferred from Clemson to Oregon State to get back to the West Coast, and he is out there as well with the Beavers. Hey, thank you, Pete. We appreciate it, my friend, and we'll check in and encourage our folks to get over our college football junkies. collegefootballnews.com is as good as it gets. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anytime, guys. You have a good one.
You're good. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, good question there, right? Because, man, it's loaded at quarterback.
It is. I was just thinking about there aren't a lot of great quarterbacks. I was looking at the Georgia announcement. They announced their starting quarterback. I said, there's not a lot of proven veteran quarterbacks around the country.
Yeah,
but because Pac-12 has an abundance of them.
Yeah, well, Georgia's got Carson Beck named.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Ohio State's breaking in a new quarterback. Alabama's breaking in a new quarterback. I mean, maybe if you're going back to the deep south and not worried about conference, Cade Klubnik at Clemson
That's a
might
great
be
point.
the best quarterback.
Klubnik, yeah, you're right about that. I didn't think about that. You're right.
The kid Jordan Travis at Florida State.
Notre Dame gets Hartman from Wake Forest, a transfer.
And then
he's a veteran. That's why Quinn Ewers is in a prime spot. It's like, hey, man, there aren't a lot of veteran quarterbacks who are returning in the Big 12, even really among the power players, I should say, in college football right now.
Without a doubt.
A lot of turnover.
Without a doubt. And you're looking, at Jalen Daniels at LSU. I mean,
he's big.
Maybe the best in the SEC, coming back established.
That's
why
big.
SEC will be in most people's top 5 or 6 in the country as well.